So I'll call the meeting to order here for the Eugene Toxics Board. It's February 8th, 2012. Our first item is let's go around and introduce ourselves.
Allison this morning with the representing the community.
Stephen Flag, Tom Carmichael, Industrial.
Christine Powell, Public Rights Net, Headquarters.
Joe at the staff.
Randy Prince, representing the advocates. Our agenda is in front of us. It includes time allocated for public comment, approval of our meeting minutes, staff report from Joe. Our largest major item is to review the recommended fee schedule for the fiscal year 2012 through 2013. And then after that 30 minutes, we have another 30 minutes allocated to discussing how we report on this program to the public, including a website survey that we are taking of visitors to the site and the dissemination of information. Last item is to schedule the next meeting and our future focus discussions. Does that meet with everybody's approval? Any additions or changes proposed? If not, then we'll proceed. The minutes were distributed electronically, and I think everybody has a paper copy available. Is there any comment on the minutes or a motion to approve?
I received they were okay from everybody via email. The representative from the
That's right. Okay.
I'll move to approve them.
Okay. I don't know if we take seconds on that. Somebody can speak up. Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes from our last meeting on January 12th of 2012, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. So let's hear, I skipped the public comment section because there is nobody else in the room. And so, for the benefit of our television audience, let's go to the staff report from Joe.
Well, first I'd like to let everybody know that the city is going to be hosting a community leader informational session, probably coming up next Thursday on the city's budget. The main presenter is going to be John Reese, and because they're anticipating a huge audience, they wanted to include invitations to the boards and commissions, but the actual invitation will probably be only to the chair and the vice chair. So I don't think the rest of you will get an invitation, but it is a public meeting, and if that's something you're really interested in, you're welcome to come. As soon as I find out a specific and official date and specific time and location, I'll forward that information to you.
Approximate month, time of day?
Next Thursday, February 16th, is the almost final date.
And that's the evening?
I don't have that yet, but as soon as I get more info. So for sure, Randy, I know that you'll get an email, and possibly you, Tom, the vice chair. And you don't have to go, it's just an opportunity if you want to find out more about
We
it.
don't want to go what?
It's optional
Okay.
if you want to go. It's just an opportunity to learn more about the city processes and budget,
Okay.
how all that works. All right, the next item, we have started reporting. Businesses in the program received their official notification. Some of you know. And so that means we've officially rolled out the new data entry program. Haven't had any negative comments about it not working. I've had one person finish their report so far. So I think everything is going well. Reports are due by midnight, April 1st, and I will follow up with businesses closer to the date if I haven't seen any activity of them reporting. One nice thing about this new web-based reporting system is that An update, I've been trying to keep you posted on the hopeful appointment of Rick Nickel to the vacant position 3 on the Toxics Board. On next Monday, 13th, I will be going to council to hopefully hear his final appointment by the city council. And he's received 7 votes so far, and he's required to receive 5 votes in favor of appointing him, so I don't really see any reason for him not to be appointed by council next Monday night. Anytime after that, we can schedule him for the first meet and greet with the full board, and just to come attend meetings regularly.
And the other one candidate was Jennifer?
Yes.
And was she also interviewed?
No, she wasn't. At the last minute, well, I'm sorry, it was a Tuesday night that they were scheduled to be interviewed by council, and Monday morning, a regulatory agency, I don't know if it was DEQ or EPA or OSHA, but a regulatory agency showed up for a week-long audit of her business, and Tom can maybe tell us more about those kind of audits, but you are pretty much not really available for anything else. So she just dropped out and said that she'll look for additional opportunities in the future to serve on the board.
His appointment is just through June of this year. They were calling it an interim appointment.
Yes. Yeah. So if he's interested in staying on, we would resubmit his application, and then he would just be kind of roped into the big citywide process. And I'll be talking about that citywide process in just a few minutes.
Is it possible to invite Jennifer to reapply again afterwards?
Oh,
I'm just curious.
Absolutely, and she said that she would, so if I don't see her application, I will follow up with her, because we do have 2 positions expiring. Well, she only qualifies for 1. We do have 2 positions on the board that are expiring June 30th. One of them is Randy's, so that's an advocacy position, and so Randy will need to decide if he wants to reapply or not, and then also position 3 will expire. So either Rick, if he gets appointed, will decide if he needs to reapply, or we'll need to recruit somebody else. But there's a citywide process going on right now, so I don't have to do as much legwork, but I'll probably a little bit further down the road put an email out to all the reporting businesses in the program to let them know, hey, we're looking for folks.
And when are the applications due for?
Applications are due March 30th. And also this year, the City Council thought it would be a great idea to create an interview opportunity with the media for boards and commissions of people that serve on the boards and commissions. So if any of you are interested in providing an interview for the media about your experience working on the board, just please let me know, and then I can help you coordinate that with your schedule. And that will take place sometime in the month of February to mid-March, to try to help with the recruitment process. It's a new piece they added in this year. And then while we're speaking of the Toxics Board, this is the time where we start talking about rotation of the chair and vice chair. And so I printed out a copy of my rotation notes for all of you. And right now we have Randy Prince and Tom Carmichael serving as chair and vice chair. And then July 1st, Randy will need to step down, and Tom will then become chair for the next year. I have to find mine. And then because we've had such a big, over the course of last year, since we've had such a big turnover on the board, Stephen is up again to get into the chair rotation more quickly than he traditionally would be. So he will become vice chair effective July 1st. And then if you look down a little bit further, I kind of made a cheat note for myself of the rotation order, advocacy position, business position, mutual position, and then we kind of rotate into that. People who have served with the most seasoned, right to know, or business people is kind of how it works. So with everybody being, so with a lot of you being pretty new, it's just going to kind of start all over again. Any questions on any of that?
I'm just curious, the press opportunity and all that, did they perceive, how's it going for city commissions? Are they getting lots of people or are they having trouble? No,
It's always a big struggle.
has been and still is.
Yes.
Are we typical or?
As in compared to other cities?
Yeah, I know other boards and commissions.
Oh, yes, 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 yeah.
There's oftentimes.
I mean, one that I hear is very popular is the police commission. I guess they always have kind of a waiting list going on, but and I think the city has something like 10 or 12
Yeah.
boards and commissions, and we're always really looking for people to come serve. So then also, if you have any, suggestions that I can bring forward of what might make it more interesting, please let me know.
The food.
The food.
Where's the food? None of them. It's only the city council that is served in the
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's somewhat limited to what it used to be.
Any other questions, comments on the staff report?
I just have one more item on the staff report. Haven't had a chance to do any more site visits, but I have continued to do reporting of audits of the businesses and the programs reporting. And it kind of broke down to a communication issue on the business side, but Western Structures did not report on time, so I had to do a bunch of follow-up with them to get a response to their audit. And then spent a couple of days assisting King Retail Solutions in their response to the audit. But we've gotten them all squared away as of this afternoon, so they are continuing with mostly without issue.
Are the audits available publicly or no?
Well, they are
Or the
public
report.
records.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, the reports are posted, and when items have been reconciled, the reconciled reports are posted on the internet. And with the public records request, anybody can look at, what.
Oh, you have to send in a public records request in order to get
Yeah. So, I mean, it is available,
yeah,
but we don't post all of that information.
I think.
And the audit findings were, what kind of nature were they?
Yeah, I mean, mostly the issues are with balancing from December 31st inventory first of the next year.
Where
And
it
then-
doesn't match for some reason?
Yeah, for some reason, and nothing has just jumped out with, somebody was trying to the books or anything like that. And then some data entry errors. It was funny when I pointed one of them out. They're like, we have never had that much of that chemical, and then looking into their reporting, they just miss a decimal. So, these data entry errors, which can happen, it often seems to be them.
It's good to have an auditing function though, because, numbers are meaningless unless you actually cross-check.
Yeah, and we provide so much more detail than a lot of other, agencies that require reports on hazardous materials, that it really is important that we do audit regularly.
Isn't this one of the only ones in the nation? I mean, the Eugene Marks and Owen reporting.
Oh, the materials balancing? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only program like it.
Yeah. In fact, because we use it a lot for our work, and the EPA was even interested in having this somebody representing going to DC and talking about it.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, this is just part of the discussion.
Uh-huh. Yes, no, it's the only one like it, and we do provide a lot more detail.
Because it's more accurate than the TRI. Except there are some chemicals in the TRI that are reported, that are not reported in the EG license.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm, still learning about the Toxics Right to Know program and the other programs in comparison, so, I might have some suggestions to bring to you in the future, because that's one of the things that the Toxics Board can do is suggest to add chemicals or, do other things differently. So as I learn more, I'll have suggestions of my own. But you can bring suggestions anytime, any of you. And that's all I have for the staff report.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that? If not, then we'll go on to item number 5 here, which is review of the recommended fees for fiscal year 2012 and 2013. And to summarize, I hope correctly, that we discussed this report or the recommendation to the City Council, which is coming up in this month, correct?
Yes,
Mhm.
there's a public hearing on February 21st, and council action is scheduled for February 27th.
Okay. And what we were looking at last meeting has been modified a bit by some corrections in the calculations, and this memo issued on January 25th explains the changes. They received an original memo, and this one is a replacement, the one that is dated January 25th.
Yes.
Would you like to summarize what happened?
As part of the learning process, essentially there was an error in the calculation that unknowingly I called out to the city attorney when I was asking them to make the language in the ordinance, the fee ordinance, more clear to reflect, the fee recommendation that the Toxics Board was recommending, because I felt there was a loophole in there. And so that caused the city attorney and city manager to want to sit down and meet to see how this fee was calculated anyway. And then I just started kind of digging more into the calculation sheet that comes up with the recommended fee, and noticed this section on the first sheet that I have that's grayed out, where the cost per FTE recommended fee, a cost per FTE for any company cannot be higher than that, and there's a range of $28.17 to $133.33, which is way higher than $26 per FTE.
I'm not sure where you're at, Joe.
Oh, I'm on the toxics fee calculation sheet that has the grayed out area.
This one.
Yes, this one.
And is this one that's 109,516 in
Yes.
the target?
Yes, and this was the original fee calculation sheet that I presented to you, that you based your original recommendation off of, but it's just sorted in a different way that clearly shows the cost per FTE error in the column that's fourth from the right-hand side. Does everybody see?
I'm not sure I'm following what you're saying. So what is the cost per FTE error?
I'm going to come over and point out to you.
That those values can't be more than the 25?
Yeah.
If all these are higher than
Right.
this number?
None of these, it basically we're violating the ordinance if any of these are above the number in this cell. And it's something I wasn't trained to check that column, and in putting the information together, I didn't catch it previously.
So what you're saying is that if the actual FTE for those is higher than the threshold, then that's not in the,
then we can't make that as a fee recommendation.
okay, so do you have a corrected one of these that would show,
Yes, there's 2 of them that are attached to the January 25th memo.
okay, and then I had a quick question. I noticed that this number is based on 109,516, whereas your 90% staffing in what you just gave us is based on 107,747.
Right, in my cover email, I explained that in the time that we had our last meeting, and that when I met with the city manager and city attorney, finance staff have gotten closer to finalizing their budget for
Right.
the city. And basically, it was decided that staff are not going to get the cost of living increase.
Okay, so the number went
So
down
it
based on those revisions from
Yes.
internal staff. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure I understood.
Yes. So it's a lot of information, and I was trying my best to explain it, but please ask any questions you have.
On the gray sheet, which is not the same, you mentioned 2 other memos, but this is the third.
No, this is just a separate sheet, because I kind of wanted us to start the discussion with
Okay.
what you guys recommended last time.
All right. The last column says percent change. Is that the percent change in total dollars paid by the company for the proposed structure, the currently proposed structure versus the last year it actually paid?
Yes.
It's just the fraction of those 2 columns.
Okay. So the ones in the gray, well, let's just say the ones in the gray with a positive value are receiving an increase in their bill. Some with 4% and some with 100, with the bill at 150% of the previous year. That's correct.
Okay, which one are you looking at right now?
This one.
Okay, that basically is, I mean, I'm just trying to help us all get on the same page. That information is inaccurate.
So this one is not.
Today's decision that I'm asking the topic board from cannot be based off of that sheet.
Okay.
But instead, if you look at the memo,
Okay.
there's
That's probably.
There's 2
here.
fee calculation sheets
This was
attached.
printed last night. Okay, so that's the same as right there. All right, so.
And I apologize.
Again, the last column, we have 2 sheets. I got page 1 of 2. Is it a 2, do you need to say it's a 2-page document?
It's on the next page.
Yes,
It-
well,
It's a PDF, there are 2 pages in the PDF that are in this calculation sheet. This replaces the one with the gray.
yes.
Okay, so it's
But
a,
I provided one at 90% staffing and one at 75% staffing.
Okay.
So when I say 2, that's what I'm.
all right, yeah, so there is another one in here.
So essentially, everyone that paid a $2,000 fee last year, their cost doesn't go up.
Correct.
But everybody else who now reaches that $2,000 threshold is paying more, and so are all the people underneath that $2,000 threshold.
They will be paying more, yes.
Yeah, that is what I'm trying to focus my interest on, maybe the discussion is who's getting a bigger bill, how much, and what are they going to have to say about it?
There's 16 additional companies that will be paying $2,000 this year.
And I think those start on this list with Newwood and go down to Precision Machine. They have a threshold fee figure on the right side of the line, $2,000, and then there's a percentage
Yes.
change. Some of them, like Holt, have a 70% increase in their bill. Others, like Clark Sheet Metals, a 4% increase. And then the ones that were not paying the threshold and still aren't, how much is their bill gone up? Now, those are the ones at the top part of this chart? No?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, if I understand.
Uh-huh.
They've all gone up because we're
Yeah.
basing it on Joe's real time as opposed to theoretical time.
Correct.
And so and that is the major factor in the increase, is the 15% FTE? Or is it a change in the base of the tax base, so to speak? Who the cost of the program? How many total FTE? Well, I guess that isn't really the number of companies that this is being applied to. Are we basically shrinking, expand, the cost of the program cost is being spread among more or less companies?
One more.
Just one more company, and the companies that fit in the assessment eligible threshold are basically in the same size range. Nobody, so there's not much change there.
I mean, everybody's FTE numbers fluctuated a little bit.
A little bit.
But the only, as you can see on page 1, down near the bottom, Farwood Steel Fabrication, they had, last year their FTE was something like 30.
Yeah.
And this year they have 74. That was the only company that had a huge fluctuation in number of FTE. Everybody else just went up or down a little bit.
So the difference, the program costs outweigh, for the individual company, they're going to say, why did my bill go up? And say, well, basically, it's not because half of the eligible industry shut down in Eugene, it's because the cost of administering the program rose somewhat, which we discussed in the previous meeting.
That's what the reason is for this
Yeah.
somewhat larger increase than usual.
So you said there are 16 new people?
Yeah, and
The 2,000
there might be a couple more.
So there's only like 19 who are not. Is that, who are not paying $2,000? Or that
Oh,
first chunk?
I was just saying 16 more paying 2,000 than last year.
Right.
16 or 17.
And then,
That's not right. Is that what
no,
you're
no,
saying?
I'm agreeing, and then
Oh,
there are only 19 companies
19.
who are
Oh,
not
yes.
paying the $2,000.
correct.
And the $2,000 limit is statutory, right?
Yes.
State.
From state mandated.
And it was in 2003?
It was initiated in 2003 and implemented in 2004.
Yeah, you can see that those two lines are going to intersect in the future.
Yeah, and it's not adjusted for inflation, right?
That was a court decision?
The $2,000?
2,000, yeah. And it's
Of
just,
course.
well, it came from the state, and as a result, it was one of the results of the lawsuit that the city received from some of the businesses in the program.
Did the court direct an agency to develop that, or did the court itself make the $2,000, pick the $2,000 number?
I believe, and I can check into this to make sure, I believe it's in alignment with the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office fee for something similar.
Well, my comment on it is it's sort of an unfortunate way to, implement this. The smallest workshops with a few people aren't affected by the program at all. The largest companies that might be able to afford it are affected at all. Companies that probably most feel the bite are the ones where the fee increase is directed. I'm not sure what we can, I don't know, that's what you're saying is that there's no way to get around this formula. We have the cap is mandated.
Well, the way to get around it is to reduce the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the formula of applying the costs, the 10 employees is in the charter ordinance. The court said that $2,000 is the cap, so the only way to reduce the cost for those businesses or any businesses below $2,000 is the aggregate cost.
Probably more of a long-term solution would be a $2,000 cap has to be changed. I mean, that's not always something we can do here, but.
No, the long-term solution is to reduce the cost. It's the only solution.
Well, yeah, I mean, just I brought up the question of, the reporting thing that ease the cost for businesses to participate in it, but it doesn't appear on the page, because you pay a fee, because you have to pay staff to comply.
Quick question. Is there usually correlation between the amount emitted and the amount of employees?
The amount.
Amount of air pollution, toxins emitted, or emissions in general, pollution in general versus the amount of employees certain company has? I mean, is there?
But you keep looking at it that it's the number of employees, just because my company's down here with over and reaches that doesn't mean I'm using more toxic
Yeah, that's
things
what I
than
wanted to
anybody
know.
else. I mean, you could look at it that one of these smaller companies could be using far more than I am.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
So
think
to base it solely on employees is rather unfair as well.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it should be based on emissions
But we're stuck,
over staff.
we can't base it on.
That was an element of the court decision, that no fees could be based on the amount of
Emissions.
chemicals,
Huh.
Stephen, you were
Yeah, I mean, there's no correlation between the number of people. It's solely based on, the characteristics of the particular industry, particular company. You have a lot of people with little, you can have a small number of people with a lot. Just depends on what they're doing.
Yeah, it depends on the business, I would say.
Well, and the original ordinance did, exclude the smaller businesses, but it did not include a cap, right, on a fee.
Initially, when the program was started in 1996,
Mhm.
correct.
It also assigned the fees on the basis of chemical reported.
Well, it's
chemical-
actually always been based on FTE.
I see. It was one part of the fee structure was determined to be levying a fee based on,
Yes.
I can't remember which part it is. So,
Well, that's how we came up, that's how we got the second tier of businesses that don't report, because they don't have enough hazardous substance use to be required to report, but they still have to pay a fee.
well, I kind of agree with what Tom is saying, is that we should, since the program is somewhat routine, the major, it's just pretty much locked in, that our goal should be to reduce the costs of doing it over the long term by the reporting system, for example, should make it cheaper for compliance. We should also make the enactment, this board, the reporting process cheaper on our end too, and I don't know that we have a statement, but that was a discussion about whether we should declare this a one-time increase or just, leave it implicit, because any recommendation. At this point, we don't have any statement other than just explaining what the increased budget is, the increase in the budget is for. Right?
We don't have a statement.
Well, I mean, as to why the program cost went up.
Well,
Or we
to
did.
cover more staff time,
We did say that,
yes.
but we did not say that we want to do that, did we make any comment on that?
Well, the instruction that I remember receiving is that any future presentations on budgets and fees, I will bring to the board as a comparison between,
Mhm.
a number of different percentages. starting with this memo, I presented both a 90% staffing and again a 75% staffing.
That's good.
But budgets for both of those.
Well, at least it shows we're aware of it. Do you feel like the council's going to look at this, or something, or you've heard from a couple businesses, and remember in the last meeting, I said, we don't like this, but that wasn't so much about the fee increase, it was just about the program in general.
Well, the businesses, except for those businesses that have representatives serving on the board, don't really know that much about the fee
Not
increase
fee
yet.
increase.
So, and I mean, I think what I hear you asking me is, what do I think council's going to do? What they have done in the past is they take the toxic board recommendation,
Yeah.
which is what I'm asking for today.
Has there, well, I don't know if you would know, but has there been a fee increase of this, or this size or larger?
Probably not this large, no. And there's not any board members on the board long enough. Were you here, Stephen, when Glenn proposed it be dropped down to 75%?
I don't know. So this seems very amorphous to me. I don't, where is this conversation going? Are we driving at something here?
Well, there could,
What are we
what
doing?
I'm getting at is there could be some blowback from this. Why is the price going up? And we're not providing, well, we have provided additional services, but we don't have any specific reason to justify going up other than we needed it. And it will keep increasing the price on certain businesses in an unfortunate way that nobody really designed. And as Tom mentioned, the only thing that we can propose for quick thing is to say, well, we're committed to keeping the price the same, or lowering it over the long term if we expect to, or we can just leave it the way we have it. Just say, here's what's happening now. We'll give you options in the future. I think that's kind of where we left it.
I guess if you're asking for a recommendation, I'd say send it out as is. If somebody calls in and complains, but Joe tried to say that the cost is due to increased administration. Hopefully it can go down rather than make a blanket promise to everybody that we can't necessarily keep.
I mean, the good news is that there's only room for 19 people to have their fees increased in the future with us, Steve.
Yeah, I guess it's just whether we needed any official statement or whether we can just go with telling the businesses that I don't think anybody wants to increase the budget, the cost of the program. Nobody's really around, that we're all concerned on both sides, or that there's concern.
Well, what I was planning to do was after the council meeting where they take action on the toxic board recommendation of the fee, I was going to send a letter out to all the businesses telling them what the decisions were made, adding in a few sentences about the justification and why it was done. And just to bring you back to a couple meetings ago when we first started talking about the fee, it is required that the cost of the program be covered by fees paid by the businesses in the program. And I do spend a lot of time on this program, and if we're going to expand outreach and continue to make this program everything it can be, I don't see my time decreasing. Working on it. But if the board doesn't, want me to proceed with that.
Well, whether economies are possible, it's hard for us to know. I mean, that would not probably make them happier to say, no, the costs are not going to go down. On the other hand, if you say that there was concern on many, all around to keep the cost low, like nobody wanted to pay for the video out of the fees, then that should satisfy them that at least we do care.
Well, I've forgotten the fire chief's name who came in,
Mark Walker.
Mark Walker, but, he knows in more detail what we do, even more detail than we do, so I found his argument in support of increasing your workload to be convincing, so.
And the stronger that we keep the program provides more of an incentive for businesses to report accurately, more accurate, as if they're investing their time into the program, hiring the appropriate people to report accurately. Because I think if we reduce the fee significantly, for example, I think before you know it, we're going to be losing the time and investment from the businesses to report as accurate as they're doing right now.
Do you, in your site visits, do you provide any, are you able to do anything that helps them file their reports sort of in the category of an online system?
Oh, well, one thing that happened with A&K Development, some of you I think were on the board, if you remember, David Beatty was recently on the board and then he needed to resign. His replacement has never done anything like toxics reporting, and she just kind of inherited that part of his duty. So I went over and I spent half a day with her, kind of going over previous reports and showing her the software program and how it works and what I expect, and just kind of going through the instruction manual with her and explaining things. So a site visit can be something like that, or just like when I went to visit Tom's, just kind of going in to see how his operation.
So there's something to the idea that the fee, the cost of the program has bumped up a bit, that there's some lowered cost of compliance which don't appear here for the companies that are participating.
Lower cost of compliance?
Well, you help somebody that might have fumbled around a lot,
Or
on the clock and
possibly, yeah.
incurred their employer a higher staff time to comply with it.
But I just really feel that's my part of the job, to help people on every level, the ones in the program, the general public, understand the program, and whatever the assistance they need from me to get that piece. That's what I'm here for.
To me, this is just a bottom line reality that the increase in budget is a reflection of the real time it takes to manage this program. End of story. To me, that's just very simple, cut and dry. I don't know. There's no way of sugarcoating that. There's no way of presenting it as something better than it is. It's what we're required to do by the law of the program, right? So that's what we have to do.
You have to go pay for gas an exorbitant price. Knowing why, it doesn't make it any easier. You still have to pay it. I still have to pay.
Yeah.
The data entry part of all of this that you talk, making it easy, that's the easiest part of the whole thing. It's the other 12 months of collecting the data, getting it in there, getting it accurate. That's where all the time and all the energy is consumed. The data entry part is a very minute part of it. And to say that you're going to save me a whole lot of money,
That's not accurate.
it's not going to happen. It is easier. It is cool the way that we're going to be doing it now, but in reality, I still have to punch the numbers in, and it's a very minute portion of it.
I think, Stephen, what you're saying is that we were a bit below this. We weren't maybe doing everything that should have been done in the past before joking.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
This is what it's going to cost this year.
This is what it is. That's all I'm saying. That's what Joe's reported to us. That's what the fees reflect. We don't have any flexibility in that. The program actually has to support her management to do the job.
Okay.
So,
All right, is there any more discussion on this or suggestions for action?
Can this be brought to the table at a later date? Once this has passed, say we do get a reaction from the business community, is there a reevaluation process that happens? Is there a, I don't know.
That's an interesting question. I don't think that situation's ever risen before. I mean, what happens next is that we have a public hearing. It's publicly announced. Anybody can come and speak. I think you spoke at last year's public hearing on the fees.
I did.
Yeah. And you spoke in favor of the program, so I appreciate that. Then after city council approves the ordinance, then it's set in stone. I mean, I'm still here to receive the complaints and forward them to the Toxics Board, but I don't think it would result in a change for at least this year's fee. But would definitely be part of discussion for developing next year's fee.
I mean, I like Tom's suggestion. We just send it over and we'll just get, react to that.
So do we need a motion to approve budgeted 90% staffing? I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the revised memo of January 25th, recommending a fee structure to cover the program costs of $107,747.
I have a question. The Far West Steel Fabrication that you mentioned had the biggest fluctuation. Is it because they hired more employees in a short period of time, or why is it that they had the biggest fluctuation?
Well, I could guess that they hired almost double the employees.
Okay.
I didn't call and ask them, but I can. Do you like?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's irrelevant. I'm just curious if you.
No. I just asked for the number.
Okay, on this, yes, that's right. I'm trying to review my knowledge of the votes. You can vote yes, you can vote no. A non-vote is not recorded, I believe. And, okay, so if we're finished with discussion, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? I'm not voting. Let's go on to the next item, which is about the Toxics programs reporting to the public. And I think that the relevant document here is the memo of November 16th summarizing our discussions at these meetings, things that people have brought up that we could change in the website, which is our primary method of outreach, communicating the information the public has the right to know. Are people okay with going down the list in the order that they are in the memo, 1 through 6? Is that okay?
Well, I've already read this. We previously discussed it.
Yeah.
Going through it point by point, what would be the purpose? I mean, are we rehashing it again, or I thought we had made these recommendations and these were going to implement it.
Okay, these are the ones that are completed, that we approved.
If I can add in numbers 1, 2, and 3 were agreed upon at the December 1st
Okay.
of last year meeting
Okay.
by Toxics Board members that were present.
That's right.
Agreed to combine 4 and 5 because it's kind of about the same thing. So it's just really 4 and 5 combined plus 6 that the Toxics Board needs to.
Okay. Yeah, that's where we are. So
Okay, 1, 2, and 3 have been done, right?
yeah.
Yeah, they're in,
Or they're in process?
they're in process, and the city is getting a new website application base.
Yeah.
So any overhaul stuff or any major changes really we've been asked to hold off on until the new website is launched.
Yeah, that's fine. So,
But I'm tracking it.
right, so 1, 2, and 3, we don't need to discuss anymore.
So we're gonna go with 4, you say you recommended combining 4 and 5?
The toxics board did.
Okay, all right, so we have 2 things to consider. All right, then let's look at the issue of the survey. And are you going to show us how the survey appears?
Yeah, let me, oops, thank you. Sorry. And it's not gonna come up. This is not user friendly at all. What do you want the survey to come up? I have never had this happen before.
I suppose maybe that's I'm just curious to see if I'm on Google, this Eugene Toxics Right to Know report 2011. Show me how I get to the report and when the survey shows up.
It's not gonna come up for me. So anyway, usually you just come to the website and the survey across to you,
Well, can we just
saying,
put,
why are you here?
if we have a defect in that, getting to the, I mean, can we just go to Google and just type in Eugene Toxics Right to Know report, and let's see when the survey pops up on it.
Selected on the list to be, just click on your down arrow on the right.
This one?
Yeah, select the
This one?
Google down below, right above history, click right there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And now just type into there Eugene Toxics Right to Know database.
Probably the Elon one.
Yeah, and then click.
How about the report, or something like report or data that we don't want to know about the ordinance, we want the, yeah, there it is. So, which one would, probably the top one there? Or public-
Those are all Oregon Toxics Alliance.
Well, there was one above it, that was City of Eugene. No, that's not City of Eugene. So we need to go down to a City of Eugene first. Is that chemical right to know? That's somebody else's.
Yeah, that was Allison.
What?
Chemical right to know as a
Oregon
domain name.
Toxics Alliance.
Hey,
And then there were the,
try searching there, Joe. No, actually on the Eugene.
Yeah.
If you
Oh,
click,
yeah.
yeah, click in there, Toxics Right to Know.
ooh, search on the City of Eugene website.
Well, it's on the, it is
Never
on the
search
homepage.
And then just hit
for
search. You should.
toxics.
There you go. Now click on the first line.
Okay.
It's not going to come up.
Well,
Well, okay. from my perspective, I don't need to see it again. My recommendation would be to drop the survey, and that's what I've always said, because those surveys are meaningless. They don't actually, few people actually fill them out. Most people are just clicking through them to get the information that they need. And if you look at the vast majority of those data sheets that we've seen, that's what the vast majority of people are doing. So you really are learning nothing from. It's not calling it a survey is a misnomer. It's not a survey. It's a few people are filling something out, but it's no. In no way is it a factual survey.
Is there a place to make a comment if somebody has a burning desire to do so?
I would like to have that when we get the new website application, and they have a simple little form for that we can just put Eugene Toxics right now at the top.
Yeah, I suggest we drop the survey and that we just have a comment section.
I would second your motion to drop the survey.
Okay, we got a motion made and seconded to drop the survey presented to visitors entering the site. And included in that is a recommendation for a place to direct a comment to. I suppose an email address or a Microsoft Observer or whatever they send an email to us here. Is there discussion on this motion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I am looking at this. I am concerned that you can't actually find. I mean, you can find it. I want to know, as a user, that I can tell somebody, you want to know what there's chemicals out there in your neighborhood, just type in Eugene Wrightson Right to Know report into Google. I would never steer anybody to this website. I don't mean to say that, but I mean the City of Eugene search functions, but I hope the new one will be better. But until I see it, I want
You can access it through the homepage of the city website, and then scroll it down.
But it came up in that Google search. It was.
I didn't see it. I still don't see the report.
The report.
You see the report, you go down to the
Is this the
summary
report?
report,
Okay.
click on any of those, and
All right. I didn't see did we click the Chemical Right to Know site?
I just go to Eugene Right to Know, and it always comes up.
Yeah, the first time I went to Google and typed in Eugene Right to Know Toxics, it sent me right to this page, and I just.
I think it might have worked for me once that way. I just didn't see it right now. And it was
Yeah,
okay.
I can't go through ELA, so I don't go through
And
Just-
ELA was actually there were several links from ELA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like anything on the net, right? There can be 1,000 different ways to get to the same place. But, so there were ELA links, but there was also a direct link to the database
Yeah.
that was on that Google result that Joe just did.
Right.
So,
The point of my comment here is, do we think that it's necessary for the computer geeks to tag it or somehow label the site with meta links that bring the user to it any quicker than it is now, or is it satisfactory? You said you had 100% of the results. I typed the right thing in there.
I just type in Eugene Toxics Right to Know.
And it got you to this data.
Takes me to there. You get about, get a page of them, and you click the top one, and that's it.
Okay, well, that would be satisfactory, yeah.
I mean, it's very simple to get.
Okay. But you don't click the top
Yeah.
one.
it. No, I do.
You
But
do?
mine happens to be the ELA one.
You're searching on Google?
Yeah, maybe I just type in Right to Know or something.
Okay.
Although I am curious, if I'm not mistaken, if you go to the homepage of the city,
Yeah, that's.
because I'm wondering, because when I do tell people where they can find this information,
click on the top, City Hall on the top.
and if you scroll down,
Sorry, it's
and quick links right there, so,
right here.
yeah, I think if you click on Toxics Board, it actually just goes straight to that page.
There you go.
Toxics right to note there. So that's the easiest way to send people to this page.
Yeah, once you've done anything in the city of Eugene, you find that sort of a helpful window there.
I mean, instead
Hidden
of,
away for the first time user.
yeah, if I were to explain to somebody how to access that,
All right.
I tell them.
But now on this page, where,
You just have to scroll down.
scroll down, it's like I'm looking for the word report.
There you go.
Report
Summary
purpose.
reports.
Okay, so this one, so you don't have to do any more links, okay.
You've got minutes, you've got reports, it's all right
Okay.
there.
The,
And a link, there's already a link to Joe. I assume that email link goes to you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, the Toxics Board has their, like, own mailbox,
Right.
but it, like, relinks over to my email.
Yeah, it's linked to yours.
so it's actually fewer click-throughs than I'm used to. You know, I used to have to go keep on that left side, maybe look over on the right for a PDF. But in this case, we just did the quick links, and we didn't have to. We're into the report. Well, okay, so probably it'll be better than, I mean, that we won't know what it's actually going to look like. Okay. So we've passed the recommendation to drop the survey and make sure that people have a way to comment on the accessibility of the information. Seems like everybody's satisfied that it's easy enough to access it at present.
But I think the comment form is not just for accessibility, it's anything about the program, right? It's
Okay.
just any kind of user feedback.
It is, and so that is something that would be added to this main page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of
Okay.
just this little form getting in your way when you
Oh,
want.
as opposed to where it says general, send email to them, we should solicit.
Yeah, like,
So your
in a
comments
section
on-
like this,
Yeah.
I would add a form or comments or something.
yeah.
No comments, okay? All right,
Comments, feedback, difficulties, anything.
Yeah.
okay, well, this would be, the action we've taken is enough to say that we've resolved points 4 and 5. Anybody else have anything regarding that? Survey,
And I'm not sure what 6 means.
well, that's the one that I have brought up before. Before we move on to this, I do have a question. Do you happen to know if the website will be providing regular reports on the number of visitors to each page or each section? I mean, you start you buy a domain name, you get it hosted, and generally you can get reports on who's visiting your site. It wouldn't be like the survey telling you, what for, or those questions, but we have the simple numbers for this part of the city. Will we have that for this part?
Yeah, our central ISD, Information Systems Department, I don't know how they do it, but they can run a report on that anytime.
It logs the IP address of people that come in.
Uh-huh.
And
So you get
way back
numbers.
when we first started talking about this, I provided a really long attachment that showed the results of the, I forget what it's called, web analysis or something like that.
Mhm.
And I can have them run that report anytime.
Okay. I would suggest that we should get it sort of somewhat routinely, every couple of months. Or particularly if there's any change, or that you should review it. If it's up 5 or 10%, it's not important, but just say, well, we're now getting 200 visits a month instead of 50 or something like that.
I would just suggest that what we get is not, you don't need a list of every IP address.
Oh, yeah.
What you need is a succinct summary of this number of hits, these are the domains they came from, and most of these web server programs have some sort of a canned analytical tool that will spit that out on a one-page summary. And, you know, we could look at that 2 times a year and have,
Could be an interesting thing to be part of the annual report, maybe, as part of this, seeing how well we're doing it, reaching out to people.
yeah, precisely. And that, the IT department, that should be very much a no-brainer task. You know, just tell them you want a summary of hits and where they're coming from.
Okay. People satisfied that we've covered the topic of evaluating how many people or what they're coming for and dropping the pay rate? If so, then let's go on to item 6. This is a item that I brought up earlier in concern that some of our major releases of toxics are not covered by the Direction No report because of court decision that appears to me a court case that interpreted the reporting of pesticides is prohibiting us from doing that.
That wasn't the court case, though. That was the original statute. The original statute specifically excluded pesticides because there's a state and federal regulatory framework for pesticides. And if the toxics board, the toxics law had tried to incorporate that, it would have been doubling.
It was federal preemption.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So it wasn't the court case. It was the original way the law was written. So it didn't have a conflict.
Okay. So I think that the issue was the interpretation that preparing pesticide-treated wood products was functionally equivalent to making pesticides. And that was the issue. And I got read the memo about the Baxter plant.
Okay.
And that the treating the wood with that was put them into the category of pesticide manufacturer. Okay, so I'm not...
pesticide user, they don't manufacture the pesticide, right? They're a user of pesticides.
For what treatment purposes.
Right. So if you're a user of pesticides, you're covered under state and federal pesticide regulatory law.
Okay.
So that's why they don't fit into the program.
But there was some court discussion on this in the ruling, or the city attorney entered.
Well, specifically about J.H. Baxter, not last year, but the year before, the Toxics Board spent about 6 months talking specifically about J.H. Baxter, and then it ended with an opinion from an attorney whether we could ask them as part of the Toxics Right to Know program to report on their use of pesticides for wood treatment, and the answer was no.
And what's the history with Baxter suing the city? And then they won?
Baxter sued the city.
Something like that.
I know that,
Maybe can the board ask the city to revisit this issue with Baxter?
ask the city.
Well, I think before that should be raised again, people should go back and read the city attorney's opinion.
Okay.
Because I think it was very cut and dry.
Yeah, I agreed with that, and so we've kind of gotten off on a tangent. And what I'm saying is that any decisions that, the point here, and maybe we need to, is that anything that the voters wanted to be reported on, that the writers of the ordinance that was approved wanted to be reported on, that was later reversed by court decision on the grounds that there already existed a reporting system, that we should simply provide a link to that reporting system.
But it's not regulated anyways, though, that pesticide.
Now, if the ordinance did not actually, if the people that wrote it actually knew from the beginning, and everybody said, well, this is not going to cover the manufacturing plant of J.H. Baxter's related to any of their pesticide chemicals, and they knew that all along, then I guess the point is moot.
I think that's actually where we stand. from what I
Okay,
understand.
I'm not proposing that we provide links to identified with any specific company, just like, oh, they also have pollution, or, you know, toxics release, if it wasn't in the ordinance. What I'm saying is that if the ordinance wanted something, and the courts changed it, and the grounds was, it's already a report, then we simply steer people to that report as a courtesy.
Oh, sorry.
So that's an interesting point, that you're saying that they never intended to cover that plant, seems it never intended to cover landscapers who spray things on people's lawn.
And the fact is that in the state of Oregon, there is no universal pesticide reporting. You know, you go to California, it's 100% reporting, everything is public record. But Oregon has fought that vehemently. And, you know, I mean, if you had a pesticide reporting law in Oregon, then you would know exactly how much Baxter's using and exactly how they're using it. But we don't have that in Oregon.
So what chemicals how are the chemicals defined that we're reporting on?
It's in this.
Charter.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah, I
there.
know, and so there are no chemicals on the original, the pesticides were not listed in the original ordinance?
Well, it's the charter.
The charter.
I mean, this program is
Charter,
governed by the
yeah.
charter. And it states in there, and I think it initially stated in there, that, you know, it doesn't cover pesticide reporting. And so that's why we have this little paragraph
So
here.
why are they referring creosote to EPA then, as an air emission?
Pardon me?
So Baxter's, for example, is reporting to the toxics release inventory creosote, which is considered a pesticide.
Right.
However, to the EPA, it's considered as an air emission.
Well, there's probably some regulatory framework that it fits under. Okay, so
Yeah.
obviously, you know, they're required under some other context to report it, but it's, yeah.
Okay, so I saw on the EPA list pentachlorophenol.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the word
Um,
preservatives.
You can use it, yeah, exactly. You can use it against pesticides, but I would call it a wood preservative. Is that chemical reported by things is that reportable under the ordinance? Because you call it a wood preservative, so its use wouldn't be limited to anti-pesticide, anti-pest uses. Is that reportable by other businesses who are not making?
Does the charter say, it doesn't list individual chemical names, right?
Right.
It says
It
we're going to adopt the lists of,
It references, right, the lists that we use.
okay, and there are other regulatory lists.
Right.
Is that-
But it specifically states that pesticides are not under the purview of this.
So,
And there are compounds, I mean, you get down to like you get down to arguments about chemicals. You know, ammonia. Ammonia has pesticidal properties,
right.
okay?
A number
But,
of companies use them.
right, but ammonia is a very basic chemical compound that's used in all kinds of different manufacturing processes. So it fits under
Yeah.
certain definitions.
So the court decision, I think, reaffirmed or established that in this application, these chemicals, creosote, pentachlorophenol, for Baxter's product, constituted pesticides and were therefore excluded from reporting.
It was the city
City
attorney's
attorney's
opinion. There was
city
no
attorney's
court
opinion,
decision.
okay.
Right.
And that's what I don't want to challenge so much, and on the issue of whether it needs to be reported, but instead, if it seems that the intention of the ordinance was to have it reported in those gray areas, that we simply provide a link to the reports that other agencies are collecting. Because I did,
Sure, there are other reports.
well, I did look it up finally, yeah. So if you go to Google and put in TRI, and then the first time I tried to enter Baxter and the zip code, that didn't work. Then I just put in the zip code and it gave us the tier. So just put or toxics release, toxics release, EPA. And then just right there.
I think this is kind of like the elephant in the room. We did it, or whatever, the big elephant in the room, that whole thing. When we did our survey last year, to over 300 households, most of them, over 60%, complained about creosote and the smell of Baxter's in that area. So to what extent is the toxics board responsible? What can we do if we can? I don't know. It seems like it's a subject that we should kind of.
Well, I don't think there's any issue with. I mean, Randy, I think what I hear you saying, and I'm not. Correct me if I'm not getting it right, but what I hear you saying is that the toxics board. If here's the pie of what gets, what's going out into the environment, right? The toxics board is reporting this piece of the pie. And I think when most people think, okay, the toxics right to know, what they're thinking is that everything in Eugene is in this database. And what I hear you saying is that making it clear to people that we are reporting this piece of the pie, and that there may be other pieces of the pie of toxics releases that are actually covered under other databases, or not at all.
That is important, but we already have that statement on there.
Okay.
Okay. What I'm saying is that if part of the pie that was defined in the original ordinance has been taken off because of an attorney's interpretation or a court decision, and that any of the justification was that that reporting system is elsewhere, there's already somewhere else to report, and so on, that we simply direct people to what was missing, what is now missing from the original intent of the ordinance. And perhaps I was presuming too quickly that we intended to report on penta or obvious polluters, and that we didn't. But I still think that when you look at a plant like Baxter, which makes wood products, and they have chemicals there, to put them in the same category as a pesticide manufacturer, a chemical manufacturing plant, or a pesticide applicator, and so on, is really stretching it. And that we should simply direct people to where the other report is, because that's part of the reason for saying we're not supposed to report on it.
Well, let's be clear. Baxter does report under our program.
That's right.
It's what they don't report is what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay. So.
And what was changed as a result of legal reinterpretation to the courts or the city attorney between the original intent?
I think you have to read the city attorney's opinion.
I did.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I think that's a very clear guidance for what we have authority over and what we don't. And I know from the advocacy side, people are concerned about that and they don't like it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when the legal expert that is advising your board tells you that you don't have regulatory purview over that, I don't see how you respond to that.
Well, and so that's why I'm not suggesting, because I'm not suggesting that we try to include them in our reporting process. I'm saying if there's a discrepancy between what people thought and what they wrote in the ordinance and how it got interpreted afterwards, that can't be changed, and that part of the reason for that interpretation cited that there are other reports, then we should, for convenience of the public, provide a direct way to get to those reports.
The toxics TRI program sounds like one source of those reports.
Well, there's nothing in there, so if you go to the...
Do we have specific examples of other?
Yes, if you go back to that toxics release inventory, EPA, and what you need to do is pick one of the, go down a little bit more before clicking on it, and go on to the one that I found, it's on one of those 6 there. I think it's
Data and tools?
Data and tools. Okay, and now if you go down, this is not looking the
Are
same.
you trying to find where it's for the zip code?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the main.
Okay.
Top 20.
Because that was the only way that I was able to find it. And then when I did find it, it was quite satisfactory. It told me there's a bunch of penta, or maybe it's not a bunch, it was like 571 pounds.
So you can actually go to the home, I mean,
So-
go back.
Yeah.
Second.
TRI home. Wait,
Down to the left a little bit.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then there should be a zip code, scroll down, it's underneath the pictures.
On my page, it didn't.
Okay, scroll right,
Oh, I see, it's cut off, right?
there, and then 970.
Yeah, there, okay, yeah, 97402.
Okay, so this is all under the TRI
This is under the TRI.
program.
And what I'm arguing is that people wanted Baxter to be reported on, that we've been told we can't, and part of the reason is because there's other reports. This is the report, we should just provide a draft, go ahead and click enter, we already did. And this page, if we took that URL up there, or told people, enter the zip code here, you will see a report that may answer your questions. And this, I'm saying that it's not, we're not stepping out of bounds if it's true that people intended when they wrote it and when they voted for it, the voters wanted this information.
Certainly seems like a reasonable thing to have a link to the TRI database from our page. Do we have one already? or-
We do.
We do, okay.
It's right
Well,
outside.
and the thing is that I would like it to be quite clear that when they look up for a company, you know, either to flag the company or to make it right up front that some information, some reporting is not done the way it was originally intended.
Do we have like a scope, somewhere on our page, we have like scope of the toxic strike program, our program? What we cover?
Yeah.
And so just before you do that page, I'm just curious, of those compounds listed right there for Baxter, is there more underneath that, or is that what they, so which of those are not, is the creosote that's listed there not reported under our program?
Creosote's not,
And the Penta is not?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, see, so it's
I know
not,
ammonia.
so I want it to be, you know, a person goes into our report and gets to Baxter and say, oh, here's what it is. They need to know that they need to know right there, because not all companies.
That's what Christine's talking about, is the scope statement.
Yeah.
It's basically a statement that says, this is what you'll find here, but you may actually find other information in different places.
And the reason I'm saying to flag it is only if there was, because of the legal maneuvers that came afterwards, if it did change what was appearing on our report. In that case, we should specifically say, oh, there's something else that additionally we were going to report. It's no longer being reported, but you can get there. And because you may not read the scope document.
But I don't think we can actually do what you're asking, Randy, because then somehow you have to create some sort of a matrix and flagging for compounds.
Well,
fairly-
that's true, and so making it more prominent to that page and making sure that they get exactly to that page and type in the zip code to know that this is an additional resource that includes chemicals that were supposed to have been covered in some cases, and additional chemicals which were not part of the program all along.
It's a little hard to say
Question,
about.
I have a question. If you singled out Baxter and say they aren't reporting this stuff, but there's other companies in the area, have you now gone and singled out one and now you're
Well,
not?
you would have to make a matrix to make sure that the
Well, you're going to have to go out and survey every company, see if anybody uses any of this stuff.
No, you would look at the one,
Well, yeah,
that's
you
true.
do, because otherwise you're unfairly singling out Baxter. So from my point of view, the law said this, it's public record what the law says, or what the court decision, or the law attorney says.
Yeah.
So it's out there in this public record, so it's a moot point.
Well, I think.
We aren't gonna change it, so unless you go and change the law.
Yeah. Well,
So if you wanna get it to reports, then let's go out and change the law,
Yeah.
and maybe it'll be repealed, and we won't even have to do this.
But everybody smells that.
Yeah. The point is that people wanted this law, they think that it reports on the chemicals, it was changed afterwards. So, it's true that making a matrix, it would be one thing to look at all of our reporting reporting manufacturers and see, is there stuff that got excluded because of those court decisions? But then we still wouldn't know if there were people who are not reporting because of the court decision, so that wouldn't be thorough. So I think in this case, the only way to do it is to say that some things that you thought were going to be reported aren't because of the legal opinions that came afterwards, and you have to go to this site, type in the zip code, and whatever you thought was in the law.
And if you want to go after nasty stuff in the air, go after the old VWs with Save the Rainforest. They're pumping out all that toxic chemicals.
But that's not within our purview.
Well,
Okay?
neither is Baxter. So.
Well, no, if people voted for the charter amendment and different lawyers argued and so on, and because there are many things that were changed, like the way this fee is imposed on medium-sized businesses.
Right, but I think we're not in agreement that the original amendment to the city charter that we voted on we're not in agreement that it included pesticides in the first place.
Well,
It
no,
specifically excluded.
it excluded
No,
pesticides, but it's chemicals that are used in an application is considered pesticides that could be used in other cases. They're not spraying ants and so on. They're treating wood, and somebody decides that's the same pesticide.
Right, and we're sort of locked into because we don't list our own list of chemicals in the charter, we're locked into the lists that are maintained by the EPA or whoever it is that keeps those lists. I would actually be interested in maybe, Allison, you brought up the fact that some of the chemicals on the TRI list are not regulated under toxics. Right? No, and I don't.
And actually, toxic is more accurate, to be honest, than it's not.
Okay, well, and I think Jennifer, when you interviewed her, said that she was concerned that maybe there were some companies in Eugene who were using some chemicals that should be reporting that weren't reporting. What kind of sort of auditing or checking system do we have in place to see?
See if that happens?
Yeah.
We don't currently, but I'm hoping to have time to.
That is something I would like to see on the future agenda, just sort of where we are now.
Well, I guess this is going to need more research before anybody's going to be persuaded. But the issue is, I think, that, if it was Roundup, then we know we're not dealing with it. It's only a pesticide. But penta is often thought of as a wood preservative against the elements, but it can also be used as an anti-pest element. And it is. And so that's the issue. I'm not trying to go outside of the original ordinance. And I do see the difficulty in trying to flag it to a particular company, because even though we can check our list, it wouldn't still satisfy, because we'd have to check everybody that didn't report to see if they also were omitted because of this thing, what happened after the voters spoke. So,
I do think there's value in terms of the outreach of the data that we collect in having a comparative list of compounds that would show up under our reporting scheme, and then compounds that would not necessarily show up, or that might show up into a different, like an LRAPA or the TRI list or something. But you have to be, you have to be really careful with that, because, I guess you could just do a one-for-one comparison. I don't know, I'm just thinking that, because that gets at the heart of what you were talking about, Randy, right? Is that, people are assuming that they're coming into the RTK and they're going to find everything. Well, in reality, life is complex, and there's, all these different regulations, and you're not necessarily going to see everything that you think you're going to see. Okay, so,
Even if you know the law very well. I mean, you know, like you say, oh, it's not for landscapers spraying pesticides, it's
Yeah.
not for maintenance shops, it's only for manufacturers, and so on. And yet we have this opinion, which I don't really want to go to court against the city attorney over, because it seemed like it was well researched. But I would like people to know that there are cases where it's not. You know, we have the statement, it only covers manufacturers. We have statement, it only covers businesses over 10. But we don't have, you know, the information that sometimes a chemical that you would think obviously should be covered, pentachlorophenol, the wood preservative, has been determined by a lawyer to be a pesticide and was excluded. So.
you know, just the other technical detail that, you know, I always think about, and it's just that, you know, yes, people are upset about Baxter because they can smell it, because they can see the steam that comes off the plant, but you know, from a toxicological perspective, it's not always the things that you can smell and the things that, you know, that people notice that are necessarily the things that are most toxic that you're exposed to. So it's just, that's just...
Wouldn't penta be an example of that? 'Cause
I don't believe particularly know the chemistry of penta. I don't just comment on that, but...
It didn't smell much worse than other things, but then somebody told me about somebody who died from having their arm in it.
Well, you know, like
Burned,
TCE, the solvent that was used for, you know, in semiconductor manufacturing and pollutes large portion of the groundwaters in California is, you know, it's tasteless, odorless.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
terrible
I mean,
toxin.
try saying that to somebody who lives there.
Allison, I'm just making a technical point that,
Yeah.
you know,
You're right.
there are the things that are obvious and everyone thinks are terrible. And and people, I love wood smoke.
Mhm.
But it's a toxin, and I breathe it every day, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah, and there's some other chemicals that are being emitted that does have health impacts that we are reporting.
Right, so...
Yeah.
So did,
Well, I guess oh, go ahead.
I was hoping to let's wrap up number 6.
Yeah.
Sounds like one thing we're concerned about is the prominence of this information on the website and how easy it is for people to see it and access it.
To know that it's
That
in there, and because of the court decision, the little extra effort to steer people to what the information is.
Yeah, and I think that until we get the new website, it's pretty hard to address sort of like how user-friendly and prominent this information is going to be, so maybe we should just sort of put off.
Yeah, and I think it should be addressed from a statement of scope, which tries to, you know, describe in layman's terms, these are the things, these are the entities that we cover, these are the compounds that we cover. And then, in that same statement of scope, you can have links and information towards other resources that might answer your questions about what compounds are out there. I think those two pieces would address that kind of concern. But I think you're totally right, Christine, until you have the new format. It's
Yeah.
a good point.
And I also like your suggestion of assessing the article.
Yeah, assessing how understanding exactly who it is cover in terms of those lists of chemicals of who's on it and who's not, and how we would go about checking to see if we're really getting everybody in our...
Yeah, I just, you know, we're in the right spirit of it, information beyond the legal purview, say, example, pesticide information, but unless you're a lawyer, you just wouldn't think of the wood manufacturing plant as a pesticide, you know. So that's what we need to make sure. Let's, if everybody's okay with just postponing this, any discussion until we have a look at the website and there's a specific proposal.
What new website?
Official rollout's going to be probably May of this year.
Okay. All right, if we're done with looking at our dissemination of information, let's get an idea, at least with the items that were on our memo. Let's
So
go
can I
on to
just
future discussion.
ask a clarifying question? So is there specific follow-up that the Taxes Board wants me to do for this right now?
For the website.
For the web, for number 6.
No. Future meetings, our agenda, we have to schedule a meeting, we have to decide what to talk about. Joe, when were you thinking that we would meet after the city council takes some action? And is that the end of our routine work for the year?
No, not quite.
We have our reports.
Yes, reporting ends midnight April 1st. So sometime mid to end April, we'll need to meet so I can report on reporting. And if any businesses report late, then you'll have to determine whether to assess fees or not. That is for
Fines.
fine. Yeah, sorry. Yes, thank you for that clarification. And then just a welcome meeting for Rick, either early March or we can add that to the April meeting.
I suggest we go on into April, but that would be my preference.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any days that are static? It seems like all of our meetings have been either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And they've all been at 3:30. Are there any patterns of which, I'm looking at April now, like somebody that can't come on any Tuesdays or any Thursdays or any Wednesdays?
Let's throw out some dates and see if we can do it.
Okay.
What about April 3rd?
It'll be hard for me the next week, so April's already.
What's,
Tuesday conflict or?
Tuesday's not the best day, but I can make it.
what?
For when?
Wednesday the 4th I can.
You cannot, or you can,
Cannot.
or you cannot. And Wednesday the 11th,
That would be hard for me.
that's hard for you.
Yeah, the next
Just, I probably can't in meetings.
You
That
can,
first week in April.
after,
Is that what you're
okay.
thinking?
And, yeah, I'm due the 11th, so. I can't really-
Oh.
I should be able to come back.
Let's see. I now have a job that is going to be split shift, and so I actually have to get off work like I did today to come to these meetings at 3:30. What I did today was I got off so I could have another meeting at 7, then I kind of, anyway, this was 2 for 1. I just need 1 day off and I could go. So the 11th would do that, but I guess Tuesday the 3rd's not so good for you, and
I can make it.
you could make it.
I
It's
can
not
make
so good for me, but actually, almost any of them are not so good for me. And you,
I probably make a meeting on the 3rd.
and the 4th is not so good for you.
No, it's fine.
The 4th is not, I can't.
You can't make it.
I have an appointment.
Oh,
So how
okay.
about the 3rd?
3rd, April 3rd. Everybody's agreed, okay.
At 3:30?
At 3:30, yeah. Okay, and then topics. What about this, you had the Lane County Local Emergency Planning Committee. Is that related to the activities that took place with the latest emergency management, the chemical spill at the rail yards? Or?
Yes, that was an exercise.
That was the exercise. Yeah, I've been hearing about that because I worked with it. That was kind of a focus this year.
How about if we just have Joe put together an agenda based on the topics that we already had, shoot it around, and people can add to it by email?
Nobody has any items that they want to put on there at this time?
If there's room,
The chemical,
just sort of our process for how we might go about assessing to make sure we've got everybody who's using
Proper.
under the program.
proper categorization of eligible chemicals.
And companies.
Okay, that's the only addition to things that Joe knows about. And about when do you think you, say about a month, and sometime in March, if we have additional, I'll think all that time. Maybe another 2 or 3 weeks if we have items we want to add in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but nothing more at this time? Okay, well, if there's no other business, we're adjourned.